Hello, everyone, and welcome to excuse me, been down under the weather here past little bit. Welcome to another live broadcast of Northwest Georgia Cryptics. I am Rick Weaver, your host. Uh, I'm actually waiting on Mr. Shane, my co-host, and Mr. Barry Robinson from Kentucky to join us. Uh, I hope they'll be on here momentarily. I have some people already up watching the broadcast. Uh, I don't know what's happened to all of them. Uh, Give me just a second. Well, I had three, now I got zero. Hey, bud. Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, it was showing your mic
Can you
was
hear me,
muted.
Rick?
Oh, yeah, I can hear
Oh,
you
okay.
now.
All right, good, buddy.
How you doing?
Man, I'm good. Glad to be off work though, but I'm good. We didn't have a bad day. It
Did you not?
good. How that goes? Tell you
Well,
what,
I'm waiting on
I gotta get snuffed up.
Uh, I'm waiting on Mr. Murray to join us. He's not come on yet.
Yeah.
Let me welcome everybody to the show right quick. All right. Okay, Shane. The title I had for this one is "A Christian's Perspective to Bigfoot."
Okay,
Uh,
awesome.
I know, Shane. I don't know if you mind anybody else knowing it or not, but I know you and I had talked, and you told me that you were a religious feller like myself, and
Yeah.
what is your take on what these creatures are?
Well, for me, from a Christian standpoint of view, I've been asked that before. I've been asked that by church members in the past, but um, and it's the way I look at it. Of course, none of us know exactly what Sasquatch is, but if they are of this world, and not, I know there's a lot of different theories and such out there about where they're from, this, that, and the other. Could be from another planet or something. I mean, I don't dismiss that because I don't know. But as far as being a Christian man, I kind of lean towards that whatever they are. Uh, I believe that God created them just like He created everything else on this earth. That's just kind of how I look at it. And and the Bible refers to giants, and such things as that, and so just because it's not written in stone in the Bible that you know about Sasquatch doesn't mean that the good Lord didn't create them when He created everything else. It's just that's just how I kind of see it, But like we've discussed before, we don't know what these beings are and such. But but yeah, I kind of tend to believe that whatever they are, the good Lord above created them just like He did everything else.
Okay,
We,
I have
we,
I, I've had people tell me that they believe that, and I guess I don't know. I've had people tell me that they think that the fallen angels, the Nephilims. Uh,
yeah,
I really don't know.
yeah. Like we talked about before. Some people kind of theorize that they could be something from another world. That's a possibility too. But we just really don't know, and so I just kind of look at it like they're their own whatever they are. They're their their own thing. But it's pretty cool to ponder what they might be and such. But like I said, I kind of lean towards that. I think the good Lord created them just like He did everything else. People, don't agree with that. That's perfectly fine. Everybody's got their own opinion and theories and such, and which is fine. Me, I'm not going to sit down and argue with somebody what Sasquatch is or what Sasquatch is not. But whatever they are, they're their own thing. That's just kind of
Well,
how
now
I look at it.
Wendell brought up a good point here. Can you see what he's got it wrote on the screen there, Shane?
I can't see it. You know me,
Wendell
buddy. My
does,
eyes
right?
to read it.
Wendell has, I believe, they are descendants of Oshua and his wives.
Mm-hmm.
That was from the giant bloodline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a possibility. That's the thing about it. We just don't know. And like I said, I'm open to myself, open to any and all possibilities of what these creatures are. So you know, yeah, he could be 100% right on that. Just the
Let me
thing
see if
is,
I can get Wendell on the show with us.
okay, yeah, that'd be great, man.
Let me see.
Oh man.
Okay, he's got here 25, Genesis 25 verses 25. Oshua was born covered in red hair as a giant,
Mm-hmm.
as a garment. Let me see if I can get Wendell in here on us.
All right, buddy. While you're doing that, Rick, I'll tell you this. I've heard of some encounters and to where when people have been asked, well, what do you think these things are. And I've heard a lot of people refer to them as an abomination, you know, biblically, an abomination. And so that's a big possibility too. And as well as I'm a Christian and you are too. And so that could, and I believe every word of the Bible as you do. And that could be a possibility.
Okay. All right. Wendell said he could comment. He couldn't join us. He
Okay.
wasn't at the office. But anyway, I have talked to many people over the years, and they seem to think that these things are direct descendants um, from the Old Testament. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so how you hear people. You'll be talking to people, and they'll say, "Oh, these things have been around for uh, 300-400 years, whatever." According to that, these things would have been around from basically the beginning of time. Uh,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, whether these creatures, and we've discussed that before, whether these creatures are uh, uh, whether they're descendants straight out of the Bible, whether they're spiritual beings, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to get this point across to people. They, these creatures are real. People say, "Oh, there's no way." I've hunted all my lives, or my life in the woods, and I've never seen anything like this. Well, you know what people have got to understand: just because they haven't saw these creatures, it doesn't mean that these creatures haven't saw you. And
Absolutely.
that's just how it goes. Uh, and I'll say this to any deer hunter, anybody, any hiker, anybody that's spent any time in the woods. you know, if you get to the point that you go into the woods and you get this dreaded feeling like somebody's sitting there on a tree limb watching you, or behind a tree watching you, or you get to walking up a trail or something and you can hear footsteps following you in the leaves, big heavy footfalls, then you can pretty well say that you have a Sasquatch in the area.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I agree with what you said. Just because
I have one here
you're
that
out
just
haven't seen one, it doesn't mean that they're not there and that they don't see you. You know, I have no doubt that in my mind that these creatures, these beings, that they have a very good sense of awareness, and I just about would guarantee you that their sense of smell, their eyesight, their hearing, and probably instincts too as well, is so much more than what we have. Um, but how far they can hear, I mean, stuff like that, I have no idea. But I wouldn't doubt that all their senses is so more than what our. And so, yeah, you might not see them, but they see you and they know when you're around. I guarantee you that. I know that for a fact because
oh,
we spoke about.
most definitely. You know, like I've told everybody, since I started this podcast, I've hunted ever since I was 7 years old. I've hunted the
Mm,
mountains. I've hunted flatlands. I've hunted creek bottoms, um, and river bottoms. I've coon hunted. I've rabbit hunted. I've deer hunted. I've uh, probably hunted about any kind of bear hunted, any kind of big game animal that's been out there at one time or another. I've hunted it. Uh, and I can tell you that, you know, just because when you're in the woods, and just because you think you're in the woods by yourself and there's no other game around, no nothing, you're thinking, oh man, you've had a wasted day, whatever. Well, a lot of times that is true, but there's a lot of times that game's outsmarting you. They may be up on the hill watching you, sniggering at you, say, uh, and the
yeah.
same way with Bigfoot. Okay, I got one there from the chairman. Evening, everyone. Good evening. Uh, but Randall has brought up a good point here. Uh, Oshawa and his wife were cave dwellers, and we have one of the largest, not changing subjects, but we have one of the largest cave systems this side of the Mississippi, right over here at Lafayette, Georgia, the Petty John Cave. And, you know, that mountain over there is infamous with Bigfoot sightings. So, who's to say that these creatures are not using that mountain over there, or not using that cave over there, the cave system, as a shelter, as
Mm-hmm.
food source. Uh, it's unreal. But getting back to the Bible aspect of this, if these creatures have been around that long for that many years, and can stay. And I know I may be getting off subject here, but if those creatures have been around that long, they can actually stay hidden from man enough to where modern day science won't even recognize these creatures as being in existence. Then, you know, to me, that would say that these creatures that would tell you these creatures are not just some dumb ape out here running around in the woods. These creatures have got to possess an intellect that it may not be per se an intellect like we have, but these creatures have an intellect
Mm-hmm.
enough to they can actually keep themselves hidden even in modern day society. They can
Past
stay
them.
hid, they can stay hidden from
Yeah.
man and only show themselves when they want to be seen. Um, I've always said this. I think that if you go in the woods looking for these creatures, you may not know they're there, but they know you're there, and unless they
Oh
want
yeah,
to
they
be
they know
seen,
you're there. There
and
yeah,
unless they
they
want to
know
be
you're
seen,
there. 'Cause, that's their home. That's their. They know. It's like somebody comes in your house. You know they're there. When you're there, it's the same thing. With these. The area that that they live in. That's their living rooms. That's their bedrooms. They know when somebody's in there. You were talking about the feeling of dread. Being out in the woods hunting. I've experienced that several times, but best I can remember, I never experienced that before I had my work back in 1991. And it's something to do with people, and I've heard of a ton of people that since they've had their what sighting, that it's almost like, not that they know that they're around, but at times you get a feeling of like dread and stuff. And I think that come some way or another, thousands and thousands of other people that's had sightings, it's almost like at times you'll get that feeling of dread when you're out in the woods or in. That's kind of like something us that like it's kind of like bag being thrown up when you feel that feeling that they're around. Does that make sense? Because I've heard so many encounters where people, after having encounters and stuff, have that feeling of dread and kind of like despair and stuff come over them at different times where they've been camping, hiking, hunting, fishing, and stuff like that. And so I think that kind of plays into it. Since once you have an encounter or a sighting of some sort with a creature, that it's almost like you kind of that might not make sense to a lot of people that's never had an encounter, but I've had those experiences like that where I felt that way. Being out hunting in the woods, deer hunting. I've had that a couple times. Deer hunting, 20, 25 foot up in the tree stand. Never heard anything, but just had that feeling come over me, and it's like, it creeps you out, and you're like, I don't even want to be here, you know. And I think
yeah, and I mean,
it's got
and
something
and
to
I,
do with these creatures.
you know, I have actually, we were talking here the other day there at the store about hiking into beach bottoms up at Jack's River this coming spring and
Mm-hmm.
doing some investigations. Well, I have actually hiked going there for a day fishing trip. It's a 3 mile hike in there. Go in there, get there about daylight in the actual on the actual river, and plan to spend the whole day fishing, be there 15, 20 minutes, maybe 45 minutes, and all of a sudden just get this feeling that something's telling you that you don't need to be in the area. And I've actually had this happen quite a few
Absolutely.
times and turn around and walk back out of there, cut my day short because of it. And I'm sure there's a lot of the deer hunters and stuff that have encountered the same thing over the years. Uh, these creatures are my grandfather, and I know I refer to this quite a lot. My grandfather was full-blooded Cherokee. My grandfather had, uh, you know, they felt that these creatures were put here as a watcher of the mountains. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
they were put here
Yeah.
to keep harmony amongst or keep harmony, basically the way he put it to me, between mankind and the king and the animal kingdom. And basically, I've always gone by that. But also he felt that these creatures uh, actually had a spiritual aspect to them, and it can be, it could be that's the reason these creatures are able to uh, be here one minute and gone the next. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I've had several people report that they've encountered them where you would see just a fleeting movement one minute, and or they be 10 foot in front of you one second, and the next second they're gone. You know, uh, is it
Yeah.
the fact that they can camouflage themselves that well in their environment, or is it the fact that they can travel in between dimensions? Um,
Yeah.
that's something, and you go back to the deal people talking about uh, Miss Chulo. Okay, the feeling of dread and impending doom is an example of infrasound. Okay, we
Okay.
know
Yeah.
we know as a species that the big cats and all over in the over in Africa. I don't know about our mountain lions we've got around here where they can do it or not, but these big cats in Africa and elephants and other animals have the sense of infrasound. And then what it is a frequency that is either so low that we can't hear it or so high we can't hear it. I can't remember which, but it's it's a sound that they give off that actually helps them capture their prey, especially the big cats and all. And we as just regular humans, we don't really understand this or really grasp it, but there's things that are out there in nature that we don't understand, and a lot of stuff I think we don't. It's not meant for us to understand. Uh, Whether we will ever be able to come up with a body for one of these creatures, you know, I don't know. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's not happening all these years unless the government actually has a body and just doesn't want to tell anybody.
Yeah.
And you know how our government goes. But
Absolutely. Yeah. But personally, as for myself, I'm pretty confident that the government, and it's probably not, it's not in the United States. I wouldn't doubt if it's the Canadian government and different governments around the world that has these creatures, these beings, within their borders and such. Uh, I just about guarantee you that they know a whole lot more about these creatures than what we do. I just hands down. Of course, you know as well as I do. The government send all kind of and they have black ops and all this stuff. That they have going on. Confident that they know what these things are and what they do, and they might not know everything about them. Good bit
Well,
about them. And
I've
that
got a,
that intrigues me about what they know.
I had a brother-in-law that worked for the Federal Forestry Service. He went to work for him when he was like 19, 20 years old. He passed away January the 1st of 2021 uh, due to COVID. Uh, Rick was had just retired from the Forestry Service, was still running a
Hmm.
consulting business with them. And Rick had told me that in 1988, when they had the Great Fire out in Yellowstone, that his crew had run up on something out there that when it was reported back to him and he reported it to the fire chiefs, the people that were above him, there was a flatbed truck sent in. Uh, Whatever this was wrapped up in a tarp, was thrown on the flatbed, strapped down, and brought out of there. And they they were told never to speak to anyone about what they had saw. Well,
Hmm.
Rick told me, other than it just being a big burnout corpse, he really couldn't tell what it was. But evidently, whatever it was enough to pique the government's curiosity to the point that they didn't want anyone else to see it or to know that
Oh
it
yeah.
was there. And that's just like going back to the Dennis Martin case and uh, up in the Smokies. Uh, what was that back in '58? Uh, Dennis Martin, young boy, come up missing. Uh, they were actually Green Berets sent in up there, or not Green Beret, but yeah, Green Beret. They were sent in up there. They pulled night ops for 10 days. Uh, had no contact whatsoever with any park officials or anyone else uh, connected to the search for Dennis Martin. Uh,
Hmm.
at the end of the 10 days that they were there, they were large tractor trailers, flatbed trailers brought in. Uh, they were loaded down, strapped off, and tarped down, and came out of there. And their strict orders was not to stop and have anything to do with anyone. They brought
Hmm.
those back, whatever this was that they brought out. They brought it out on the flatbeds, took it to wherever, but you know, it was never released to the media that this actually happened. It was never released to anyone that this actually took place. That even this operation took place. Had it not been for people being on scene up there and actually seeing uh, the berets in there, they wouldn't have known that this operation had even went down. But
Yeah.
so now you tell me, could this could this have been a clan of Sasquatch that they went in and wiped out?
Yeah.
I've been told that that's what it was. I've been told that it was feral people. So who's to say that that's not what they're calling feral people? Was the Sasquatch clan that was in there?
Hmm. Yeah. Too. Not about that particular story, but other stories too.
Well, David Pilatus wrote a book uh, on the Dennis Martin case, and I think it's part of his 411 missing persons uh, series that he has out. And there's no. Let me see what this right here is. Yes, Wendell, the same feeling you get from the so-called infrasound is the same you get from a demonic encounter. Well, it could be. That could be it.
Yeah, yeah.
That could.
Uh, I've heard encounters where people that's running a Sasquatch thought they were more of a demonic entity, just by the creature's actions, and not really eye shine, but seemed to be glowing. Their eyes were glowing, and so, and I've podcast shows about how she thought that some of these creatures were what she called empty vessels, and that the demonic entities didn't have a problem entering into these quote unquote empty vessels. But she said that she didn't think that all Sasquatches were like that. Some of them were, and she also thought that some of what appears to be Sasquatches is more of a demonic type entity shape of a Sasquatch like being, and and that could possibly be very uh, Jesus cast out demons and evil spirits and things like that. But it was on this earth, and so I have no doubt that something like that could be very possible. Demons can enter people and enter other animals, and who's to say that sometimes that doesn't happen with some of these Sasquatch or Sasquatch type beings.
Oh yeah, and
It's a
even in the Bible, it talks about God casting the demons out, and them going out and entering uh, into a bunch of swine, which is
yeah,
pigs.
yeah, yeah.
So by that,
Jesus did that. Yes, sir, he did.
do so
But yeah,
by
yeah,
that, not only could a demon enter not only could a demon enter a human form, but it could also, according to the Bible, it could also enter an animal form.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so I don't know. I know that as long as we've been researching these things, I know there's still more questions than there are answers. Um,
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And it seemed like the more that you can, by listening to people's encounters and experiences and stuff with Sasquatch, it seemed like you can start with two and two together. With a lot of. You're so right, buddy. When you say there's more questions, that's that's one thing about this subject that is so crazy. There's so much that we don't know. And like I just like to learn about these things as much as possible. I don't care if people believe my encounter or no. I don't care one way or the other. And I'm like you, in too, to where I'm not personally in the Sasquatch. I'm nothing. Hey, I'm cool with that. I was a guy that had an encounter one time years ago and just been interested in it, and it's had some other stuff go on that was probably Sasquatch related over the years. But I I'm not one of them people that's out to try to prove to everybody that they're real. I know they're real. I know they exist. And so if people want to believe, that's fine. If people don't want to believe, that's fine too. But I know what I saw wasn't a bear or anything else that and And like I said, I've had other experiences being out that was possibly, Sasquatch related. But the subject just fascinates me, and I'm like you, man. I read books, and it's good stuff, like Tom Cantrell's books and Burn, just to name a few, just interesting stuff. And these guys have done a ton of research and stuff, and I take a lot of what they say and such. They've had a whole lot more experiences than I probably would ever have in my life, related to Sasquatch and such. And I love listening to people's encounters. I do, because like I said, man, you can start painting a little bit of a picture when you listen to all these encounters and these witnesses about what they saw, what the creatures doing, what they observe these creatures eating, and things like that. It's just it's just it's a really cool subject to be interested in and try to study and do research, but but the whole thing always goes back to there's always more questions than answers.
Okay, I have one here, Facebook user. Demons can enter animals, and during my encounter, which was telepathic, it told me it was an empty vessel. And I have noticed that a lot of people are now saying that there are some demonic entities that make themselves look like Bigfoot, but they use that
Yeah.
as an excuse to make themselves believe that there is also another type of Bigfoot that is good and is here to save the earth and is our friend. Now,
Mm.
the same thing happens to people that have alien encounters and ghost encounters, and this is what? Huh. Well,
That's real.
that gives
That's
you
real.
another aspect there.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. That's a real interesting statement.
The,
And yeah, I could see that, you know, because with a lot of Sasquatch encounters that I have, of course, not had, but have listened to witnesses and such about their encounters and stuff. A lot of that, some of that Sasquatch stuff is real similar to a lot of demonic stuff. Creepy. That's just creepy. It just is to me. And I know you're interested in the paranormal and stuff, and you've done investigations and stuff in the past, and my sister does that stuff. And I do have an interest in it, but I tell you, I might be an old rough country boy, but the thought of fooling around with ghosts and demons and stuff like that creeps me out, dude. It just does. Stuff of
well, that goes back. That goes back to what the Facebook user that just uh, sent in this last comment. Uh,
yeah,
those things. You know, people have. You know, from encounters that I've had people tell me, from encounters I've had sent in. Uh, you know, uh, they're both right on the fence as far
yeah,
as a lot of these things being of a demonic nature. The encounters, a lot of it being uh, people have told about having mundane encounters with these creatures where they were just uh, as nice as they could be to them. Never they would show themselves, but never approach them to the point of trying to. Never tried to get physical with them. Uh, well, uh, basically, the only encounters I've ever had, and I'm just going to be straight up with anybody. The only encounters I've ever had with these creatures uh, were encounters that were enough to scare the shit out of me. I mean, that's the
absolutely.
type of encounters that I've had with them.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
And there's no doubt in my mind that if you get out there and you cross one of these creatures, uh, to the point that, and you piss it off to the point that, it becomes physical. These creatures could kill you in a heartbeat. You
Oh,
know, that's what I tell everybody that comes on this show. I tell everybody, straight up. But there's no doubt in my mind whatsoever that if one of these creatures wanted to kill you, he could kill you, uh, and not think nothing about it.
oh yeah, absolutely. We've talked about it before, well, many times that they say that an adult male chimpanzee is something like 5 to 7 times stronger than an adult male human. And these things, Sasquatches, are so much bigger, of course, him, and bigger than us. Just think what kind of strength that these things possess.
Mm.
And if you take one of them things off, or you catch one that's had a bad day, I guess, or is in a bad mood, or just got a crappy attitude, you never know what you're going to run across when you do run across one of these things. But it's just like I've
No, hey,
told people before, just like what you told people. You run into one, um, try to be as cool as possible, and back out. Just leave, because like we've talked about a million times before, we know what ticks these things off. We don't know what kind of mood one would be in across. You don't know what kind of attitude one would have if you run across one. Yeah, there's a ton of sightings and stuff to where the Sasquatch is like, oh crap, I see you. You see me. Oh crap, I'm leaving. But there's a lot of them, a lot that they're not like that. As well as they'll they'll bluff charge you. They'll growl at you. They'll scream at you. They'll throw stuff at you, and this, that, and the other. You know, they're known to do that. That's pretty common for a lot of encounters. But yeah, you just don't know what you're going to run into, and it's best just try to stay cool and don't act all crazy, and just back out and leave if just get out if you can. And me and you were some people say, they think they're all tough and stuff. Well, if they ever run into one of them things, I'll do this, I'll do that. No, you won't. No, you won't. No, you won't. and,
no,
and it's
I can tell you from
fine
personal
to,
experience. When you see
because
one of these creatures, and the only thing I've actually, the only as far as uh, upfront sightings that I've actually had of these creatures was back in 1984. As I told everybody, and it was what I perceived to be a young juvenile. Well, this thing being
yeah,
a young juvenile, it was between 5.5, 6 foot tall. So it even being a young juvenile was as tall as a full grown man. Now you take
yeah,
one of these creatures that are full grown, that are 8 to 10 foot tall, that have been reported people seeing them. You know, man, people don't realize they cannot uh, uh, they cannot grasp what walking up on a 10 foot creature uh, with a 5 foot shoulder spread, with uh, thighs as big as a pine tree. They cannot comprehend what this is actually going to entail until they actually walk up and witness this. So, dude,
absolutely.
you can't, unless you've actually been there, you cannot tell me that, oh, I'd walk up and, go up and slap this thing, run him off, whatever, take a fly swatter to him, take a limb to him. No, that junk ain't gonna happen. You know, uh, I'm gonna tell you what my personal experience, and I've done this for years. I've done research for years. if I walk up on one of these creatures face to face encounter with them, one of these creatures, an 8 to 10 foot Sasquatch, I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to piss all over myself. That's that, and I hate to use that language, but that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to wet my pants. I'm going to soil my pants, and if it doesn't get ticked off and kill me because of doing that, then I'm going to run like hell. That's my take on this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Like I've told you before, or they'll be like, "Oh, I do this, I do that," and like I said, won't. But like I told you, it's all fun and games, until you run into one, and not too. And it's not fun, and it's not a game because these things that they're not anything to mess with. You know, you wouldn't take a stick, or like my grandma used to bob and poke a darn bear with it. you know, it's not
Okay,
advisable to do. Just
let
watch.
me ask you this, Shane. Let me ask you this. The Bible
Mm-hmm.
tells us. The Bible tells us that about the story of David and Goliath.
Yeah,
Okay, you know what I'm referring to, right?
absolutely.
Okay, the Bible tells us of David and Goliath. The Bible tells us that God gave Goliath or gave David the strength to go out with nothing but a sling and a rock and
Mm-hmm.
kill Goliath the giant. Meet him face
Mm-hmm.
to face on the field of battle. Okay, let me ask you this: if David were here today and able to talk to us, do you think, in all reality, that David would tell you, "Hey man, I walked out there. I wasn't a bit scared. That thing didn't bother me. That thing 20 foot tall, uh, weighed 2,000 pounds. Hey, I know I had this. That hey, wasn't nothing to it. I just walked out there, bopped him in the head, and turned and walked off." Now, do you actually think David would tell us that?
Uh,
I think if the man were here and was able to talk to us and tell us what went down, that he would tell us that he knew God was on his side, but that he was scared to death the whole time he was standing there facing this giant down. I think that's what the man would tell us. Any reasonable man that has ever lived, uh, facing that insurmountable odds, that in my realistic belief would be what they would say.
sorry about that.
Okay, Filmer of Bobcats has sent me a little deal here. Let me show this. The rock stunned Goliath. David killed Goliath with Goliath's own sword, then cut his head off. That's what it actually says. Yes, that's what it says, but it didn't say how scared David was while all this was taking place.
Mm-hmm.
I know what I can pretty well imagine what Goliath was thinking. He walks out there, 20 foot tall, uh, and with a deal, hey, I'll step on this peon. I've wiped out armies upon armies. I'll step on this peon and go on about my day. But I understand the faith that it would take for somebody like David to be able to walk out there and do that. I really do. I understand that. But I'm still
Mm-hmm.
saying, and I'll still say this: there still had to be some type of fear factor as all this was transpiring.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I don't see how it could. With David being a human, even though God was with him and and giving him, and was on his side, there was he had a lot of fear in him, and with these of course these Sasquatch, they're not as big as a Goliath, would be at in the Bible, um, but you're just not going to walk this 8, 10, 12 foot tall, in a Sasquatch, and you and flick him like you flick a bee or something off the arm. If you do, you're not going to make it out. You're just not. You know, and that's not going back to what we were talking about. Uh, you got to be careful with these things because they're so unpredictable. That you don't know what they're going to do. You know, and no doubt in my mind that killed by these things. There's no doubt in my mind that people have been kidnapped before, by these things. Just look at the Native American stories about these creatures and such, that is so prevalent in all the tribes in North America, whether it be whatever. A lot of these creatures coming and abducting women and children. You know, and I guarantee a lot of that stuff happened that way.
I think that
They probably gonna make a meal out in my mind.
I think that in the days of the Bible, I think that God being with uh, with David, God being with uh, all the prominent people in the Bible. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I know those people had to have. Well, I think they had. I feel that they would have had to have, even though God was on their side. They knew
Mm-hmm.
God was there. They knew God had them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and as Wendell says here, David was confident in the power of his Lord, but he picked up 5 smooth stones.
Yeah.
So you know, by, by doing that, uh, that tells it all. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
the young man had to have had that human fear factor in him
Oh yeah. Most definitely. Most definitely.
to face that down, and that's what I'm going back to my point exactly. You take people that say they're going to run up on these, they want to. People say they want to see these creatures, they want to have an encounter with them. They want to have. I've had people tell me, "Oh, I want to have one of the roughest, meanest encounters that I can have with one of these things. I can survive it." Well, I'm gonna tell you, you know, not unless you got the help of God on your side. Uh, no, you don't want to mess with you don't want to meet one of these things face to face and encounter it, because I'm here to tell you I've had some encounters with them that had never seen one, but I've had encounters with them
Mm-hmm.
that has scared me to the core and never even seen the creature. Now, if I'd had these type encounters and that sucker walked out and him 10 foot tall, just like I said, I'd have soiled my pants and emptied my bladder, and I'd have went to the house if I'd have been able to.
Oh yeah.
That would have been it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And you get reports from time to time, and I think I'm of the opinion. Of course, I'm no expert, but just by listening to so many encounters and such, and I really think um, that they're a bit different in different parts of the country. Like we were talking about the other night, a lot of them down here in the deep south, but they're not. Most of them, they're not, 11, 12 foot tall. To where, in other parts of the country where they seem like they're not, but they're bigger. And of course you got, like we talked about before, what, the skunk ape down there in Florida, which is roughly what, 6.5 foot. And I've heard varying reports and encounters that, you know, some of them are real aggressive and some are not. But, but from what I've heard,
Well, I think
super huge, they're uh, about 7 foot tall on average, you know, what I have heard. Super, super aggressive, and I don't want to run into one of them ones out there in East Texas. Yeah, I know of some guys that do research out that way, and some of the stuff that I have heard from them about how they're they're just so aggressive in the things that they do, and about their these beings are very. I have no doubt about that. But a lot of that stuff you hear out there in East Texas, them summer guns, they'll try to flank you, you know, and come in behind you and stuff. I've heard that time and time again, and I'm sure, that a lot of Sasquatches, do that. You don't even know it that they're doing it. Um, but them boys out there in East Texas, they're nothing to mess with. I've heard too many horror stuff out there. Nothing to mess
well,
with.
you know, our Indian tribes. You were speaking of the Indian tribes. Our Indian tribes were some of the best uh, trackers and some of the best uh, hunters that's ever been on the face of this earth. Uh,
Out.
our tribes here in North America, and they had a little deal where they would actually walk backwards in their own tracks and backtrack themselves to get in behind an enemy to flank them.
Mm-hmm.
And from a lot of these trackways that I've seen of Sasquatch, where especially where they've been left in the snow, uh, a lot of that looks to me just like that's what they're doing. They're backtracking themselves to where they can
Mm.
actually throw you off their track. And a lot of that to me would explain, where uh, you find a trackway that'll go out in the middle of an open field and just quit, just abruptly end. Uh, could it
Mm.
be that they've went into another dimension, or could it be that they've done like the old Indian tribes and they've just backtracked themselves and sidestepped and went on their merry way?
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
That's
you know,
plenty of stuff like that. Because like I said, I have no doubt that these things are highly intelligent. And I've even heard too that hundreds that a lot of the Native Americans hunt hunt and track and learned a lot of ins and outs of observing what Sasquatches were doing. And so as far as them, backtracking in their own tracks, I don't doubt that would do that.
well, I feel a lot of the things that Sasquatch that they do in the woods uh, while we're out there looking for them. I feel that a lot of that goes back to what they've encountered the Indians doing, and maybe this is where we go back to getting our teepee structures and things that the Sasquatch leave behind on a frequent basis is, you know, uh, what's to say that it wasn't from watching the Indians build these things and erect these things that they haven't passed that down through generation after generation, and that's how they've learned to do that. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you know, there's a lot of stuff, like you said, there's a lot of stuff that we've actually been able to learn about these creatures, but then there's a lot of stuff that we don't know. For
Oh,
instance, the big X symbols that they leave behind. You know, what is that about? I was over on Lafayette. I was over on the mountain at Lafayette a couple of years ago, and I found uh, X structures marking four different corners of a mountaintop.
mm-hmm.
Is that to say that's a hunting ground for them? Is that to say, game abundant? Is that to say this is a holy place? What does it mean?
Yeah, yeah. Is it like a maybe? Is it a warning to other Sasquatches to stay out of that area, or we just don't know. There's a lot of out there, and a lot of good ones too. But at the end of the day, we really just don't know. But I think there's a lot of people that's got like a lot of good ideas about what they structures could possibly mean and this that and the other, because there's a lot of people that spend a lot of time out in the woods looking for it's being hunted.
Okay,
And
Wendell has
that's all.
wrote
I commend you for doing that.
Wendell has
But
wrote
at the end,
Big X symbol
so
is
much
for
we
an
just don't
alpha
know.
male. Wendell has wrote here Big X symbol is for an alpha male, uh, showing that that's his area. Well, that could be. Uh, that could very well be what it is. It could be, marking the territory that's his, and a warning for all the other males to stay out of it. Uh,
Yeah.
Dogs actually, you have dogs that mark their territories. Foxes, coons. Uh, you have wolves. Going back to the wolves, as far back as the wolves in America. Uh, they mark their territories, uh, and they'll fight to the death. And a lot of dogs this day and time will fight to the death, if another dog gets into their territory. So, that could very well be
Mm.
it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
All right, Mr. Shane, we have reached the end of another program here. We're on a
Oh,
little over the hour mark. So I'm gonna bring it to a close. I'd like to thank everyone for watching us tonight. I hope we've shed some light on a few topics tonight that you've enjoyed. Uh, we're be back next Friday night, same time, same bat channel, uh, and I just want to thank everyone that's watched us tonight, that will watch us in the future, and please, be kind to us. If you like the content that we bring you, go down and hit that bell notification, that like and subscribe. That helps us out a great deal, more than most people realize on this thing. But again, thanks everybody. I want to thank Wendell for his comments. I want to thank Filmer of Bobcats for their comments, and all the other people that have commented in on the show tonight. We've really enjoyed it and really enjoyed. I hope we've been able to answer a few of your questions. Uh, let's see here. Wendell, before we go, Wendell had wrote, if the X is on the ground, the area is controlled by an alpha female looking for a male. Oh, okay. Um, Facebook user, I think as long as we have strong faith in God and we know that these things, we know what these things are, then we don't have to fear them. We can go in the woods, even in the nighttime, and we don't have to fear them, but we should never go looking for them, because looking for them can open up a doorway, because then you are inviting an encounter, and God will let you have one. All right. And there's a lot of truth to that right there. A lot of truth. Um, that's just like
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
paranormal investigation. Yeah, if you go in and and you're looking for trouble, you liable to encounter trouble. But as we as researchers, uh, basically if we stand to have an encounter with one of these creatures and actually be able to lay eyes on one of them, we're gonna have to get out there at dark and do it because these animals are nocturnal. They do their feeding and all at night, and they're traveling at night. So if we're really gonna be able to have an encounter like most of us want to have, then it's the night time or no other time really for us. So that's the reason I get out there and do it, and that's the reason I'm sure that everybody else on here does it. So, but I always go with the knowledge that I've got God with me. So, I'm hoping that He'll see me in there in a safe way in and a safe way out.
mm-hmm.
All right, everybody. Rick Weaver, Shane Honey. Shane, say good night, buddy.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for listening in, and we appreciate you. And just right now, have a really good weekend. Y'all stay safe, and again, thank y'all for listening, and we'll see y'all back next Friday.
Okay, Wendell says we're having the Seekers podcast Saturday night at 8 p.m. Central Time. If you want to continue the conversation, Wendell, I'll be at work, but yes, buddy, if I'm not covered up at 8 o'clock, I will be. I will join your podcast, and yeah, we'll continue this. All right, everybody. Good night. God bless, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Good night, Shane.